Good day everyone, welcome back to the channel, welcome to an annual video and a very happy New Year's Eve. Today is New Year's Eve and today, before we get to New Year's Eve, we're going to be speaking about all the films I watched in 2022. It was a big year for movies. There were some highs, there were some lows. I've got Franny 121 here once again to give a ranking out of 10 for all these films. Short description for most of these films. Let's get straight into every movie I watched in 2022. Starting off with Ghostbusters Afterlife. I am a huge Ghostbusters fan. I was looking forward to this new take on the franchise. I thought this was going to be a reboot, but it kind of ended up being a sequel of a sort. You'll know what I mean once you've seen the movie. There were some great little cameos throughout it, a great little storyline that worked together, great both child and adult acting. Paul Rudd was a nice addition to the film as well, and it set up future films. So look, Ghostbusters Afterlife, I saw this at a pre-screening premiere. I think I saw this on New Year's Day, to be honest, as well. So it was the first movie I saw of 2022, and I'm going to give Ghostbusters Afterlife a 7 out of 10. I think it was pretty good for the most part. Next up is Scream. Now, Scream is the 5th installment of the Scream franchise. I love the Scream movies. You always wish they come out at Halloween, but they seem to be coming out towards the start of the year. We're getting another Scream movie next year, which is very, very exciting. But as for Scream, I did enjoy it a little bit more than Ghostbusters. I thought that it still used original characters from the original franchise in a nice nostalgic way. A great villain. Obviously won't reveal who those villains are. Love a good Ghostface story. And kind of setting up this new generation of characters. So look, for Scream, I've watched it twice now and I enjoyed it. The first time the cinema actually cut out while I was watching it. But I'm going to go with a 7.5 here for Scream. Next up is a film that we both saw, and this one, I think I saw this one in gold class as well, which is very interesting. But Halloween ends. The Halloween trilogy comes to this end. The Michael Myers, Laurie Strode story. And it's a very different take on the franchise. They go in a very different direction. They center off from Michael a lot from the film. There is some dark scenes. There's a nice storyline, but it feels a little bit cliche sometimes. Some great kills throughout the film as well. Nice new additions to the cast, and wraps up the story fairly well. So for me, I know a lot of people were underwhelmed by this, but I'm actually going to give Halloween Ends a 7 out of 10. What about you, Tom?
Yeah, the movie was pretty good. I predicted what was going to happen from the start. I saw the cast and I went, yep, this is what's going to happen. Like Hayden said, there's heaps of good kills in it, and I'm giving it a 7 out of 10 as well.
Also a 7 there for Tom. Now, Chris Evans played Lightyear in this spin-off of the Toy Story franchise. It was an okay story, and Socks was a great addition. Really enjoyed the Socks character throughout the movie. Kind of felt predictable for the most part as well. Good animation, okay story. Wasn't great. I'm going to give Lightyear a 6 for me.
I can only just remember a bit about the movie, so I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I gave this one a 5 out of 10, yeah.
Well, just like Tom said, he can't remember a lot of the film, and I can't remember too much of Sonic 2. I obviously remember Jim Carrey reprising his role as Dr. Eggman. I think there were some very strange scenes throughout this film compared to the first one. Yeah, I really can't remember. I've watched a lot of movies this year. Sonic was at the start of the year. I'm going to give Sonic a 6 as well. And it did set up a third film, which I'm looking forward to. But you haven't seen Sonic 2. Next up is Doctor Strange Into the Multiverse of Madness. Now, this film, I was really looking forward to it. I thought there were so many different things they could work with this multiverse storyline. I'll be honest, I reckon I was waiting 2 or 3 years for this film since it was announced with its original title. And look, I was underwhelmed. It was definitely an enjoyable film, and I think the hype probably took away a lot of that. And if there wasn't that hype, I would have enjoyed it a lot more. But I'm going to give this film a 7.5. It was a nice little entry to the Marvel universe, but Marvel's definitely seemed to go off track for a while now. And this was one of those films where I felt like I was left underwhelmed all in all.
Yeah, sort of the same with Hayden. It felt more like a One Division, like last episode or something. It was more about her and all that. But I reckon it was still up there, one of the best Marvels. So I'll give it an 8 out of 10.
Up is Morbius. Now Morbius stars Jared Leto as an iconic character, but Morbius was an absolute letdown. Storyline was terrible, cringy dancing, just weird sequences, pretty bad CGI as well. I felt like I was watching a movie from 2005, which is probably a year that those vampire movies seem to be a thing. So back then, you would have probably enjoyed it. But these days, Morbius just doesn't hold up. Probably one of the worst movies of the year for me, if not the worst. I'm going to give this movie a 4.
Yeah, Morbius was shocking. The vampires were just not it. And yeah, I'm going to give it a 2 out of 10.
2 out of 10.
Shocking.
Next up is Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. Now, I enjoyed the first two Fantastic Beasts, but I didn't enjoy the second one as much as the first. And I think this is probably the best installment of the trilogy. There is a lot of setup for future film. There are a lot of great nostalgia references with Harry Potter, obviously the same universe that it is being set in. Now, Johnny Depp was obviously stood down due to court case drama at the time. And Mads Mikkelsen took over the role of Grindelwald. And I thought he did a fantastic job. I think the acting was great. The storyline was great. The special effects were good. And it was a nice little wrap-up. If it is a trilogy and this is the end, because it probably isn't making enough money. But for me, I really enjoyed Fantastic Beasts. So I'm going to give Fantastic Beasts an 8 out of 10.
This movie, probably the worst movie I've seen all year, only because I've never seen them. And I didn't know what was going on. I thought it was Harry Potter, but it wasn't. So I'm going to give it a 1 out of 10.
1 out of 10. Wow. Terrible weight of massive talent. Now, this is one I was looking forward to. Very different movie. It stars Nicolas Cage as himself. It stars Pedro Pascal. They worked really well together. There was a great little storyline. Bit of action. Some great comedy as well. Just a highlight of the year, this one. And I feel like it's definitely being slept on as well. I'm going to give The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent a 7.5. I think it's a good film this year. Next up is Jackass Forever, the last of the Jackass installments. Jackass has been fantastic for the last 20 or so years, but I felt a little bit underwhelmed by the film. I did think there were definitely some bold things that they did, and it was great to see everyone back once again for this final storyline, along with some new cast members. But for the most part, I didn't think it was as good as they could have made it. So for me, I'm going to give Jackass a 7 out of 10. Here's Top Gun Maverick. Now, it's been years since that Top Gun sequel, and obviously Parramatta won the comp at the time of that happening back in 1986. Top Gun Maverick is one of the films of the year. Without a doubt, the sound effects have done a fantastic job. We had a new theatre with like an extreme screen theatre kind of opened up near us, and this was the first film I saw in that. It was such a good experience. Tom Cruise did a great job back. Miles Teller, great new addition to the cast, great little storyline, great soundtrack as well. Absolutely one of the films of the year. Kept you on the edge of your seat, and as I said, those sounds were just so, you felt like you were there. I feel like this is a movie you had to see in cinemas to enjoy it. Top Gun Maverick, 9 out of 10.
It was a pretty good movie. I have not seen the first one, so I'm guessing it's similar to Top Gun Maverick, but this one was pretty good. I didn't like it at the start, but got halfway through it, and I gave it a 7 on this list, but I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. 8
out of 10. Is another Marvel movie, this one being Thor, Love and Thunder. Chris Hemsworth returning as Thor, Natalie Portman returning to the franchise, along with Korg, some other old friends. The new addition of Christian Bale as Gore the God Butcher. Look, for me, this film was underwhelming. I think Doctor Strange was slightly better, but I think both of these films just didn't meet expectation. I didn't think the storyline was very good. I felt like the film definitely could have been a lot darker. Russell Crowe had some strange but cool, I guess, scenes as Zeus. But I just get left with this bad aftertaste of the film. So for the most part, I didn't really enjoy it. But being a Marvel film, there were definitely some things I liked. So I'm going to give Thor a 6.5. I like the ending. I'll mention that. I love the ending.
I'm just trying to remember what the ending was, but the movie was, there was some cringe moments in it at times, but movie was based for laughs, I reckon, more than what a normal Marvel would be like. I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10.
7 out. Next up is The Black Phone. Now, it was hard to watch this film with a bit of a creepy dude in the cinema trying to talk to us the whole time. It was literally us and one other old dude in the cinema, and it was quite disturbing, and Tom's having PTSD over it. But look, the more I think about it, this film just didn't make sense. And I've rewatched it, and I try to enjoy it, but I just don't. So for me, I'm actually going to give The Black Phone a 5 out of 10. I think that it was okay. I think there was some... I think the sister was pretty cool. I thought the sister as a bitch, or the use of language was used in the right way. There were definitely some dark moments in the film, but yeah, 5 out of 10. It was underwhelming.
This movie, yeah, besides the creepy old dude in the back, it was pretty good. I don't know why he's saying he doesn't like it. The storyline was good. It made sense. The young fella, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. I'm not going to talk about it. I'll give this a 9 out of 10.
Next up is Minions: The Rise of Gru. Love the Despicable Me films, not really the Minions film. But as a sequel, they did a nice job. Obviously, a young Gru. I think it was the Fab Five, or it wasn't the Sinister Six. I forget what they're called, but there were these group of villains. It was a fairly forgettable film for the most part, and it really took away from the main story as well, but it's a kids film, so you can't expect too much of a plot for this one. It just wasn't great overall, so I'm going to give Minions: The Rise of Gru a 5.5.
Yeah, the Minions are funny, but that movie was just a bit weird. I can only just remember bits about it, so I'll keep it short again. I'll give this one a 3 out of 10.
Next up is Fall. Now, Fall looks like it's a low-budget film. It looks like they can use nothing with the story. It shows two girls that climb up the B-57 or B-27 tower, and basically they're stuck up there. They can't get down. This is a film that you think can't go for at least an hour and a half. It feels like a shorter storyline. This is the surprise packet of the year. The fact that this was showing in cinemas was very lucky. I didn't see any trailers. I saw a poster, I think, and it made me want to see it. A poster, for all things. Fall is one of my favourite films of the year. Fall is probably in my top 100 movies I've ever seen. I feel like this film has a great surprise, a great cast, a likeable cast. You hate and then you like, and you hate again. And there's some really good ideas that work to set up the way that this film ends. And there's nothing bad I can say about this film. I think they've done a great job. And again, it's probably a film that people aren't going to know about. It's going to be slept on. Really, really enjoyed Fall. I'm going to give it, you know what? I'm going to give Fall a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, Fall, honestly, top 3 of movies of the year I've seen so far. This will probably be in number 3. It was, yes, as Hayden said, slept on. I wish I saw it at the movies, but I watched it at home. But I'm glad I watched it. I'll give this one a 9 out of 10. 9 out of...
Next up, short and sweet, Jurassic World Dominion. He hates Jurassic, so he won't be watching it. For me, I wasn't looking forward to it. I thought that the first Jurassic World was good. Fallen Kingdom was dog shit. This one was a little bit better. For the most part, I probably enjoyed this more than Fallen Kingdom. Very weird story to go with, like, locusts, but I can understand what they were trying to do. Great to have some of the old cast back as well. Some nice little moments with the cast, and obviously they all come together by the end of the film, which people have been wanting to see. Again, just wasn't great. They definitely could have ended it a lot better for the Jurassic franchise. I'm going to give it a 5.5. Next up is Fresh. Now, if you haven't heard of Fresh, it's on Disney+. It stars Sebastian Stan, the Winter Soldier, and this is like 2 different films. Now, without spoiling the film, it is literally a love story, a romantic kind of comedy for the first half an hour of the film, and then the film really begins and takes its course to show you why this film has been rated R. I enjoy this film. This film is very dark. It has some very gory moments in it. has a nice story, some interesting characters, and you learn things about those characters as the film goes on, connecting the past with characters as well. I think it's a nice little story, and I don't think it's cringe. I think some people will probably think it's cringe, but I don't think that. And I'm going to give Fresh a 7.5 out of 10. Next up is Black Adam. It is Dwayne Johnson as the DC hero Black Adam, and it was great to see Adam Smasher. See, off the top of my head, I forget the other heroes, but great to see some of these new additions to the DC universe. But for the most part, I didn't like this film. I thought it had a pretty bland story. The fight sequences just weren't great either. So look, I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Black Adam, 5 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of DC movies. It was average, so I'll just give this a 4 out of 10.
Next up is Smile, one of the surprises of the year as well. Smile, I feel like it's not going to be slept on, because literally you had people at NFL, NBA, ice hockey, everywhere you go, you had promotional people smiling for an hour looking at you and promoting this film with t-shirts. So people knew that this film was out there, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. It played on psychological issue, had some great sequences, some great jump scares throughout the film. It had some strange moments for the most part, but really, really enjoyed it right down to the end. Definitely some weird things, but I think horror these days, you can't expect it to be what it was 20 years ago. It's a very different thing, and I feel like this is one of those films that got horror movies back on track, and I think the very end of this film was fantastic. I thought that, how is this film going to end and make sense? And I thought it was a really dark ending, but I really liked it. I'm going to give Smile a 9 out of 10. It's one of my favourite movies of the year.
It was probably one of the scariest movies I've seen this year. We were watching it. I had bloody volume up so loud. I was on edge my whole seat, freaking out. I'll give this a 8 out of 10.
Next up is Barbarian. Now, Barbarian was literally in cinemas for 2 weeks. It starred Justin Long. As for the other cast, I don't think there was any actors that are well known. The other one was, off the top of my head, Bill Skarsgård, who was obviously Pennywise in it. And this movie plays off a really interesting concept of two people book an Airbnb at the same time, and obviously they're trying to work out who is going to have the Airbnb or whether they're just going to stay the night. And this film is a horror film. It has some pretty scary sequences, has a nice backstory. It does a nice job of making sense by the end of the film. You're going to be very confused throughout the film. And once again, it feels like you're watching two different films. I won't spoil what I mean by that. But I think it was a fantastic film. Strange villain, but it made sense by the end of the film. And done a good job to scare you as well. So I'm going to give Barbarian an 8 out of 10. Next up is The Good Nurse. Now this one was different. This had Eddie Redmayne in this film, obviously from the Fantastic Beasts films. I liked this film for the most part. I definitely think it wasn't the greatest film of the year, but I didn't think it was that bad. I'm probably going to give this one a 7 out of 10. Again, plays on that psychological issue. It's about a nurse that is getting away with basically killing people for fun, a serial killer nurse, and what would happen in the hospital when people find out. There's cover-ups involved. There's very dark storylines that feel very humane as well, which made this movie feel kind of real in a way. So I'm going to give The Good Nurse a 7 out of 10. Next up is Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and this film was great. I'm not going to lie, I think from the trailer, there was a lot going on in the film. I didn't know how they were going to tie it all up. Now, look, Ironheart was a nice little addition to the film, but I don't necessarily think it was particularly needed. I think Namor was a great villain. I don't know how I felt about the ending to the character. I won't spoil what I mean by that. And then you had these Avatar-looking race, and it probably took away the excitement from Avatar coming out this year, other blue people, but yeah, they did a great job without Chadwick Boseman. They did a great job to give him a bit of a legacy for the film and then set up future, whether it be Black Panther or Marvel film, with the Wakandans in them. It was great to see Everett Ross back in the film as well, and I really enjoyed it. Again, probably one of my films of the year. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Great soundtrack too.
Yes, Black Panther, best movie of the year, I reckon. This is going to be my number one. We'll keep it short, sweet. This movie's a 10 out of 10. Go see it. If not, you're missing out.
Next up was Pinocchio. Now, Pinocchio was on Disney Plus, and I'm a big fan of Disney films. Love Alice in Wonderland. Love all those types of stories, and Pinocchio is obviously a classic story. This one starred Tom Hanks, and it was okay to watch for the most part. But I'll tell you what, it was pretty disappointing. And to keep it short and sweet, I'm going to give this one a 5 out of 10. I feel like it strayed away and changed things from the main story or previous film. Next up was Poker Face. Now this was interesting. This was a strange old film, and look, Matt Nable, the NRL voice, was in this film as a great character as well. Russell Crowe basically invites all his friends they play an annual game of poker, and things turn really dark. A nice little storyline. It starts off horrible. Starts off absolutely horrible, and you'll want to turn this movie off. But keep tuning in and you'll start to enjoy it. And I think by the end of the film, I did enjoy it for the most part. Definitely not the greatest film of the year, but I'm going to give Poker Face a 6 out of 10. I think it did a good job of wrapping up the storylines throughout the film as well. Next up is On the Line, another one that probably slept on. I feel like most people wouldn't have heard of this one. Mel Gibson returns as an actor in this film. It is basically about he's got a call. He's a radio host. He gets a call saying someone's got his family. He has to stay on the line for the call. And look, there's definitely a slow kind of start to the film for the most part. You start to get invested in Elvis's character. This film will divide audiences. There are a lot of people that will hate this film, and there are a lot of people that will love it. This film has one of the most strangest, however unique, ending, plot twist, whatever you want to call it, in a long time. For me, there was two. The second one I didn't like. The first one I loved, and it got me. I did not see the twist to this film coming. I'm going to give On the Line a 9 out of 10. Again, I think it's one of the best films of the year. Next up is Avatar 2, The Way of Water. It's been 14 years since the last Avatar film. James Cameron finally returns, and I was a little bit underwhelmed. I think it was a good storyline for the most part. There were some bad parts of the storyline, a little bit cliche, a little bit predictable. There were some fantastic, absolutely fantastic special effects, and it's a visual masterpiece, a visual movie. There is some good, what's the word, like family moments and things like that. There are a lot of characters in this film. That's probably one of the things it suffers from as well. There are a lot of characters in Avatar 2. It becomes hard to follow just how many characters and even remember characters' name. But obviously great to see everyone basically from the first film back in some way, shape or form for this second film. The villain was great. Jake was great. Niatri was great. But again, I was a little bit underwhelmed by Avatar 2. Will I enjoy it more on a rewatch? Potentially, but I'm going to give this one a 7.5. And last but not least is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. And this is one of the films of the year. This is easily the best animated film I've seen in years, if not a decade. I can't remember the last time I enjoyed a film so much. This film introduces plenty of different characters, cuts away between characters. You start to care or enjoy watching every character that's on screen, faces real life issues, and a fantastic story. There's some great little cameos, sequences throughout the film. The visual effects look like Into the Spider-Verse. Very, very different visual effects. It's just an absolute masterpiece. You wouldn't think that thinking of Puss in Boots movie, but I think this is much better than the third and fourth Shrek. I used to love Shrek the Third, but now I have a lot of love for the first two Shrek movies. And I think this Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is right up there with it. I think it's way better than that first Puss in Boots movie. They've done well. It has one of the best villains in a kid's movie I've seen in a long time. And I'm not going to spoil it, but there is a certain sound when that villain comes on screen. And that sound is absolutely terrifying. The sounds throughout this film, the music, they've done a fantastic job Obviously, the acting or the voice acting is great. Great to see Antonio Banderas back, and then a fantastic post-credit scene setting up potentially some more movies in this Shrek universe. But I love this film. I think it's going to be underrated. I think no one's going to get around to watching it, which absolutely sucks, because I think it's going to win some Oscars. I really do think it's going to win some Oscars for sound and for animated pictures. But I'm going to give Puss in Boots a 9 out of... So that's going to do it for this video. Puss in Boots, Top Gun Maverick, Fall, On the Line. I think those are my top 4. I can't split between those 4. Smile, between those ones for my film of the year.
My top 3 would be Black Panther #1, Fall, and Smile.
There you go, guys. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel. Hope you guys enjoy this annual video. Have a great New Year's Eve tomorrow, and I'll see you guys later.